This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. We are doing our NBA 2025-26 preview as we continue on with the teams. I can't believe we're getting this far, but we're here. Let me bring in Adam Murray, my co-host, as always, forever and always. Adam, we're sort of in the middle, or would you call this like slightly below the middle of the pack?
Aww. This group is the incredibly frustrating. It has many different names, but all the groups in here, there obviously might be an outlier that you will disagree with me on, but for the most part, these are teams who just have questionable strategies.
Yeah, only
To
one of these teams actually made the playoffs. A couple of them made the play in, but didn't go further than that. Some
And
just didn't
these
make it at
teams
all.
are far on the outside. They're way too good to be bad. They're way too expensive to be the yard sale recipients of give us all your picks. They're just sort of like Sisyphus was, who would bring carry this one up the hill and then it would come right back down the next morning, and he kept doing it. And these teams and their fan bases for the past few years, with the exception of one outlier, are just sort of tortured more than the average fan base.
No,
With the bad group, the
well, that's what I was
dumpster
gonna
fire group
say.
is just they're their own
Yeah,
category
but
of.
that's what I was gonna say. That the bottom, the dumpster fire, to be transparent about it, those are just four teams. So these teams that are here, they're in that vein where they could get to the play in and try to be competitive with their combination of players. Or they could just straight up tank it because four teams you could have four teams that get 60 losses, but then some teams have to get 50 losses. And that's some of the teams here. And then there's a team here that might just surprise.
Oh, there, but for the most part, these teams, the majority, are on the outside of the 10 team playoff team, on
Mhm.
the outside looking in, and need other teams to have bad fortune for them to rise up, even with their questionable decisions. So, who are we starting off with first today?
Yep, let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. So they already had some changes going into the season. Then they made the deal where they traded away Zach LaVine, and then they bring in, Kevin Werder. But it gave more time in the backcourt for Josh Giddey and Kobe White, who both probably had the best. Would you say the best years of their careers each at the end of the year?
I don't know, because by then they were in full tank mode and they tore everything apart, and they already, they facilitated the De'Aaron Fox trade to San Antonio and got nothing in return. And the problem with Chicago is a few years ago they went all in, sort of the low
With
level
DeRozan
all
and
in.
LaVine and Vucevic, right?
Correct. And it failed miserably due to health with Ball, and then they sold every piece for pennies on the dollar. You went from Alex Caruso being, well, we're going to take nothing less than 2 first-round picks to, oh, we'll just take Giddy. And then we don't even want to, we're going to play hardball with him because we don't think he's worth 30 million. But
He's a
that's neither.
restricted free agent because he's on his rookie deal. That was one of the reasons why the Thunder traded him, because they were staring down huge money coming down the pipeline with Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and
Yeah,
Shea. So they
he
were like,
doesn't fit.
we
So,
can't fit this. So they brought in Caruso on smaller money, right?
and the same thing with Vucevic is now he's just I believe he's 35 or 36, just a old center who has up. He's getting close to it. He'll be at the 1,000 game threshold this
Yeah.
year.
He doesn't miss a lot due to injury. The problem, I mean, the reason why he's still a Chicago Bull, he hasn't been moved despite 21 million being for a big, is actually kind of slightly above the the threshold of of a good NBA center. But the thing about Vucevic, he's not a good defender. That's well known. His production is almost like consistent, 18 and 10, but you can't expect him to like take over a game. So Billy Donovan, who got an extension, by the way, in the offseason, he started leaning more on the guards. And Kobe White really flourished once Levine was out of the way.
So the problem with the Chicago Bulls is management and ownership are content with a 10 seed every year. They're content being let's just show up to class, let's get our participation, let's get our C- grade. Okay, we passed. And that's it.
Hmm.
Because people forget, like, Chicago, they're not making any moves. Well, what are they supposed to do? They tried with DeRozan and Levine, who
And it didn't
could,
go anywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't go anywhere. So eventually you have to tear it down. And how do you tear it down if you still think, they held on too long to we can fix it, we can right the ship, and it never righted, and now you don't have that high draft lottery picks to do it. So you got Bazelis last year, who has shown great potential, and then after the logjam of the trade deadline, showed he might do something. This year they drafted another project, and it's just like, what are you doing here? Kobe White, you have to move him this year because his contract is so team friendly. They don't have enough money to re-sign him, going over
Well,
there.
that might be one of the reasons for the holdup for Josh Giddey getting his deal, because they're trying to make the numbers work to see maybe we can get Kobe White to sign an extension before the season
But
starts.
his extension is numbers are so low, they can't max out
So he
what they
got
can pay
13
him.
million, and it has to be above a certain amount, and the max is somewhere around like 25 million, and Kobe probably thinks he can get more than that on the
Well,
open
he's
market.
gonna get more than that, but whatever the low ball, because he started off for
He
a fuck.
struggled. He had a lot of injuries. He was a six man for a while. Then I want to say at the end of 24, you started to see the signs of a good player. And then he really blossomed, like I said, after the trade deadline when he became the two guard
Basically all they did this year, they're running it back by just swapping out Lonzo Ball for
for
Isaac
Isaac
Okoro.
Okoro. I think Okoro, they're gonna. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his deal that he originally signed with Cleveland. They're gonna try to fit him in. I don't know how effective he's gonna be, but I can see him in a role where he has to play some defense for them
I'm
because
not
they are a
against
bad
it.
defensive team.
It frees up the backcourt a little bit by letting Giddy and White and Desumu sort of do their thing. The problem is you still have Patrick Williams and his albatross of a
They
contract still
signed that
sitting there.
extension. It's going to be very hard to move him. That's another thing too. They have a ton of guys with expiring deals after this year: Vucevic, Werder, Zach Collins, um, Desumu, like you just said. Jalen Smith is on 9 million. They can easily cut that if they wanted. So if they wanted to blow it up at him, they could.
Well, they
Um,
will,
you
because
know,
this is the last year of everything. Vucevic is an expiring contract. White, we said they can't re-sign, so they're only going to have a handful of people under contract next year, and they'll have all the money.
mhm.
Because they have money. They're just waiting for Giddy and his number,
And
which could
Donovan
which
signed the poison pill coaching contract, meaning like, hey, if you're gonna fire me, at least I'm gonna get paid to sit at home.
again, torturous result for the fan base of, well, we'll live on our Michael Jordan laurels, and we'll play the theme music, and we'll look
And
at
am I
his.
dreaming it, or did I read a recent report that Jerry Reinsdorf might step away, or that not that the team is for sale, but that Reinsdorf basically might give the reins to like a family member or something like that.
I know nothing of that, but
Okay, that might have
that
I might be dreaming that, but I know that's been a big criticism that Reinsdorf, like you just said, you resting on the fact that Michael Jordan built this great dynasty of a franchise, and people are just going to go to the Bulls games because it's the Bulls.
that's
And
exactly what it is,
yeah,
and he knows it. And then if as long as the arena sells out, it doesn't matter what product you put on. Well, I'm not going to pay the tax. I don't want to pay anything. Okay, so you're kind of one of the teams that's just stuck where they are, and you have to have good drafting, good talent evaluation, which they haven't had over the past
yeah,
many years.
it's been like stop and start. Desumu was okay. Let's see about the new one, Noah Sangi. I hope I said his name right. I think Bazelis might wind up okay. Dalen Terry obviously did not. So like it's just been 50-50 in the draft. They had 39 wins last year. They lost badly in their first play-in game, which knocked them out because it was a 9-10 matchup to Miami. The over under, give it to me.
They're over under. So again, like we said, I took notes down when the books opened in mid-July,
Mm-hmm.
and then sort of tracked whether it trended upwards or downwards until schedule release day. Because once schedule release day, well, obviously nothing's going to move, but that's sort of where people have come in on, However, the Bulls started off at 32 and a half and are currently at 32 and a half. So everybody is very down on Chicago.
I would go over, but not by much. Like, so 32.5 sounds about right. Like, that means that you think they're gonna lose 50 games. Like, that's pretty steep for a team that's been playing with like messing around in the play-in for the last 5 years or 4 years. I would go over, but I'm not confident about it.
Oh, I'd go over because they're just that's what the 10 seed will get. The 10 seed will get 36 to 38 wins. So that's where they're probably going to end up. And unless they somehow gut their roster, I foresee just
I think they're
more
just a
status quo.
little too good to be that bad. Now, if they want to tank, they can do it. Like they can do a fire sale in February with Werder and Vucevic for desperate playoff teams, and maybe even Kobe White, and that they could really, really tank it. I just don't foresee a scenario where Donovan's just going to completely give up unless he's fired mid-season, which I don't think is going to happen. All right, Adam, let's talk about the Miami Heat. Again, similar to another team we had or a couple of these teams that we're talking about this group, they're kind of like in play in hell. Um, Obviously, they made the finals in 2023 with Jimmy Butler and a bag of chips, but Butler's gone. He poisoned the well to the point where Pat Riley had had enough and they shipped him out. They didn't even great. Let me ask you this just straight up. Did you feel like they got good return on investment or proper return from the Butler trade?
The Butler trade
They
brought
got
back
Andrew Wiggins
Wiggins,
out of it at the
which
end of the
they
day.
did not want. They got the first round pick. It was Yakachunias this year because their pick got moved to somebody else, so they didn't lose out. However, Miami, we can boil down to one thing, and old man Riley, get off my lawn, is the twofold. You have the owner who refuses to pay the tax, and then a team that will refuse to tank for better draft position. So they're always overachieving, and always overachieving gets you just middle of the pack, which you have to, which they do. They're very good talent evaluators.
Mhm.
However, Terry Rozier is what was the landmine that sunk the ship.
Yeah, and because he's got that salary. Now he's at the last year of it at 26 million, but he just
They
didn't
they
produce.
made the big trade for him. That I believe was the first round pick they gave up, if I'm not mistaken, to or they still owe one for him. He was not the difference maker. His salary prevented them from chasing Lillard and going all that big game hunting because nobody wanted Rozier's salary,
Mhm.
and you couldn't with Jimmy's massive price tag, and his ineffectualness just completely tanked everything. With that said, they did manage to clean house quite easily by getting rid of Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson
Yeah.
and swapping him out for Norman Powell.
Yeah, the one thing they had to do that I mean, I wasn't a fan of it, but it was because like you just talked about earlier very well, the tax apron, how they were trying to avoid it. They had to dump Haywood Highsmith to the Nets for basically a drink machine. Like,
It was literally nothing because it's
mhm,
a
they had to get under.
second
Right.
round pick that's protected to all but the three last picks.
Yeah, and people are wondering why are they still in this situation? So Wiggins makes 28 million coming up. They gave that rookie max to Tyler Hero. Bam Adebayo at his new money coming up at 51 million. I actually am fine with it. That's a star player. He doesn't always produce great numbers, but I feel like he's a great team leader for them. He's also to be the best player. They also got Norman Powell, and he is a good contributor. I'm trying to remember who they traded in that deal to get Powell. It was like a multi-team deal, right?
The Norman Powell trade was, I had just mentioned Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson.
Yeah. Okay. So they gave up just those to just get Powell, but Powell makes 20 million. So they're kind of in this crunch. They also re-signed Davion Mitchell, who they had gotten from Toronto, I believe, for nothing.
They
But
re-signed Davion
but
Mitchell.
he was a good contributor late.
They got Fontecchio, who fell out of favor in Detroit, but they had to give up Duncan Robinson. They figured it was cheaper to just trade him away as opposed to eating his $9
Yeah.
million dollars.
Yeah, so
which that was part of
they have a
the sign
different
and trade
nucleus.
with the
They definitely have a different nucleus, but like you said, they have always drafted well. You have in there, you bring in these guys that, they didn't spend a lot on Nikola Jovic, Pele Larson, where Jamie Hawkins has had a complicated relationship with Derek Spoelstra. It's been well publicized, but he is a good player who can contribute, and he's still on the squad. So they do have pieces that can put together a good team. I have to imagine that they're doing everything possible to dump Rozier, especially with all those rumors about him being under investigation for betting. So you
but they
wonder.
have to attach a pick with that, and
Mhm.
they can't do it. Like you were saying, they have a very deep roster if you look at it, with the starting of Hero, Powell, Wiggins,
I would
Bam,
assume Yakashunas is going to play pretty quickly.
and Kyle. He's in the develop because below him you got Davion Mitchell, Terry Rozier, and Fontecchio, and then you got Jaquez, Jovic, and Pell Larson, and Yakashunas. So you have the problem is they don't seem to be able to all play together.
Right,
Like
because they get guys that just fit Heat culture, but they don't get guys that like mesh great in training camp. That's
there's
why I worry
no.
about Powell. I worry about his production, whether or not he's even going to buy in.
Well, he was, almost six man of the year last year. He had a
Oh,
complete
he had a great
resurgence,
year in
but
LA. Yeah.
who knows if he'll come crashing back down to earth. But Heat were always known for getting that G League 10-day call up two-way player, and they don't have him anymore because they got all these developmental people. And like you said, with Spolstra and Jaquez, like Jovic, he's been injured. So what do you do with him? Pell Larson sort of overachieved, but he was forced to play earlier than maybe his development suggested. Kyle Ware, they publicly called him out on in summer league, saying, "Yo, you got to start playing center, kid. You can't
Mhm.
just be showboating."
Right,
And it's
because
like, well,
Bam Adebayo does need a blow. Like, you can't have him just play power 4 and 5 every single game. Somebody needs to step in. I'm assuming Jovic and Ware will be those guys.
so what? Yeah, that worries me about this team is they are completely anemic at center now. With behind Bam and Kyle Ware, you don't have any big man to.
I would assume if they are able to do something to flip Rozier and not give up picks, they would want a center in return of some sort. Not
You
even.
they need some size. You can't have Fontecchio playing what a big four. Like
Yeah.
they're just gonna have to play a lot of small ball, and I don't know, man.
What's your opinion of Tyler Hero, just in general as a player?
Oh, it's gonna be very interesting when his next contract comes
He
up, and he's
averages
gonna
over
want.
3 threes a game. He is an assist guy, average 5.5 and assists a game. He is a solid player. Like,
But
I would
is he
say he's.
worth max money? Is he worth 40 million a year money now for 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a dilemma because he's got 2 years left on his deal. I'm pretty sure that
Yeah, so
by
next year he's extension
2026, he's gonna
eligible.
wanna be talking extension, correct. Wiggins, I just hope he can fit somewhere. I got the sense watching him, he did not wanna be there when he got traded to Miami, but maybe like a pep talk will be able and then also implementing him in camp with Spoelstra and
Now
Bam and
is
Hero, maybe he'll actually buy in.
now is he expiring this year finally, or does he
No,
have
because
2
he's got a
years?
player option the next year, which is at 30 million, which he'll opt into.
Of course.
So
So
that's gonna be tough.
maybe it's wise for Miami to take sort of a gap year here, like everyone else, and just
Yeah.
sort of retool and see where you are and develop some sort of roster as opposed to just having tons and tons of bodies. Vegas, however, is very bullish on them. They started off at 37.5 when it opened, and that slid up quickly to 39.5. So do you
Now,
see being
they
a
won
40-win
37
team?
games last year. They were the road team and won both games in the play-in to get the last spot, even though they got blasted by the Cavaliers. So 37.5 was how they started. That's how many games they won. So you're saying they're gonna do better than that? I don't know.
That's what they're thinking because yeah, it went up 2 games. That's
I would go under on that. I think they're probably gonna slide out of the play-in scenario.
I cautiously right now have them as an over.
Okay.
Just
Meaning they'll be, like, right at 500 again.
they'll be at like 40.
Yeah.
It's 39.5. because
That's
you
where they
have
live. That's where they're,
that's where they
that's
live,
their
and that's why it's
comfort
very
zone.
frustrating. The fans obviously don't care because they all show up in the third quarter, if at all.
Hmm.
And I the roster, like you see the bodies, and it's like that could be good. Then it's just like, well, can you really see Norman Powell and Wiggins sharing the floor together? Like, where and Tyler Hero? It's just like where?
Yeah,
How's the ball going to
you can't
move?
play Wiggins as a sixth man. There's just no way. That would give me the sense, Adam, that they're gonna do it again. They're gonna do a similar scenario where Wiggins is the starter, but Powell is the sixth man, like he was in LA. I just wonder with Rozier, are they just gonna buy him out? Can they ship him for something to help their front court? And are we at a even though I do believe he deserves the extension he got, can Bam Adebayo step up offensively? I highly doubt it, but if he can, that would be a huge plus for the Heat.
Well, how much more does he have to do? Be like defensive player of the
It's
year?
hard. It's hard, man, because he's doing all of the switching and he's getting to the free throw line. He averages 4.5 assists a game. He's not a stiff.
I know
So
he's doing everything now.
he
He's doing
works
everything
hard.
he can. It's
Yeah.
just the rest of that team, it just sort of lets him down, kind of, and that's the very frustrating
And let's
part.
see what a full year Davion Mitchell looks like, too. All right, Adam, let's talk about the Toronto Raptors. This is one of those rare ones where they didn't really do a lot of player movement. The real drama was in the offices where Masai Ujiri just after their draft was over, either quit or was fired. It depends on which one you believe.
What do you mean Toronto didn't do tons of moves? They
They
swapped
did
out
the
Chris
moves, but it
Boucher
was not in the
for
summer. It was in the off season.
Sandro Mamushvili. They that's the big upgrade.
You forgot about re-signing Garrett Temple.
Well, he's a locker room guy. They need
Yeah,
somebody
he's
who's
basically running the players union or
so
something like that.
basically it was the Atlanta Hawks who did the same thing. Let's just re-sign everybody and then hope they do good. The problem with Toronto is they were all injured, and these guys, the starting five, literally never played together
Yeah,
because
I
Ingram.
remember Adam Emmanuel quickly. He got hurt in the first game, and he didn't play again until January, kind of like off and on. And once he finally started playing, he averaged like 17 points and 6 assists. He was a good player. He just didn't play enough games.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is none of them played enough games. They're all injured. Even Scotty Barnes got injured, and
Barnes got his rookie max set, but it was going to be hard for his numbers are fantastic. I call him a Swiss Army knife, like a better offensive version of Draymond Green. The thing about Scotty Barnes is like, can you rely on him as a top guy? It's hard because you also have RJ Barrett, who had something to prove, and RJ Barrett had stretches where he was going for triple doubles and basically controlling the offense. And it was almost like a your turn, my turn
well, that was
situation
a
while
problem
Quickly
because
was out.
everybody was always out. So whoever the one guy who played, of course he's going to score everything because it was him and nobody else, and that led to the very very deep bench.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
they had a horrible start. Like they literally won 8 games in October, November, December. But again, like you were just saying, I don't know if you got to give the credit to their, Ujiri being able to find diamonds in the rough and in undrafted free agency, Darko Radjakovic maybe being a better coach than people give him credit for. But they kind of went into their tank tested lineup with guys like, Jamal Shed, Jamison Battle, Colin Castleton, and they actually played really well.
yeah, that was again. You said Battle and Mogbo and
Jonathan Mogba, I forgot to mention him.
like,
Yes.
yeah, they all where are these guys coming? Oh, they were
Kobe
second round
Walter.
picks. They were undrafted. Well, how did these guys? Well, they had to play because the entire like you look at the starting five of Quickly, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, and Pirtle. That's fairly solid in that Chicago Bulls sort of way with Dick Abaji and Mogbo as your
Yeah,
depth.
and
Like,
you just said Ingram, like, huh? Like, yeah, Brandon Ingram got traded to the Raptors. He didn't play a game because he was
yeah,
hurt.
he didn't play a game. And so, what does he? Can they play with him? I
Brandon
don't.
Ingram, I went through this whole phase with him with the New Orleans Pelicans. He's a really talented offensive player. The problem is his motivation. Like, it's hard to get him going.
Motivation Well, he got paid now, so
Yes, he did.
is it motivation or is it just injuries? It always seems like he was injured, and if he wasn't injured, he was about to be
Yeah, I
injured.
think he had a shoulder injury. I don't think it was a knee injury this time. He had knee problems too. He's a guy who wants to play when he's 100% healthy. Well, hopefully by the time we get to tip off, he is. He got the 3-year, $120 million extension. Jakob got one, even though I don't know why he did. I guess they just felt like that was the going market for a center going forward. So they're like, well, we better just tag him out for extra years because we can trade this away. Grady Dick had good moments. He averaged 14 points a game, but he also got hurt down the stretch.
Of course, they all did. That was their. So it's extremely impossible to predict what they can, and that's the torturous part to the fan base is they spent way too much. Like they're going to have to jettison somebody because they're over the tax
Yeah,
line.
they're in a weird thing where they like are run by a Canadian investment group. Like they don't have like one owner. So they basically decided, okay, we're gonna go slightly past the first apron here. We're gonna, spend. Once they made the Ingram trade, they're like, okay, we're gonna agree to the extension. But once they did that, Adam, like they decided, okay, we're spending all the money because you already got the extension done with Barnes. You took on Barrett's money. You signed quickly as a restricted free agent. Now you're over the tax. And I feel like there is pressure to win.
There is pressure, and like I said with the Hawks, and then also the Celtics of let's just keep the team together. However, it seems like they overpaid every single person here. Quickly, his contract is the one that ruined all the RFAs. Everyone's like, well, why can't I get quickly money? And it's like
He got
quick
32.5 million flat for 4 years.
quickly shouldn't,
Yeah.
yeah, which is going to age a lot better than everyone else's because it's not going to go up. But like everyone's like, yeah, how come I don't get 30 million? It's like, well, how did he get it?
Yeah.
So it's very, I cannot stress how like it you have no there's literally zero games they play together with because of Ingram. I don't even know how they're going to run. What philosophy? They're going to go fast. They're going to go like
I
they're going to
think I think
switch. Like
defensively they're gonna switch. That's what I was about to say. I think they're gonna switch a lot. Hence, like the drafting of Colin Murray Boyles, a 6'9" guy who can play guard, kind of thing. So I think that's what they're going for. Cal- Keelich is a good offensive player. He showed that in San Antonio. So we'll see there. Mogbo is a guy who he can block shots and steal the ball. So I wonder if they're going to try to switch more, which can be a little bit of a problem for teams that go against them, especially when we know this, Adam. Like people go to Toronto and they kind of like check out mentally, like, oh, I don't even want to go to Toronto. Nobody wants to go to Canada. But if you do that and you play sleepy ball, well, the Raptors might come up and bite you in the ass.
so Vegas is also confused. They started off at 34 and a half, quickly jumped to 36 and a half, kept rising to 37 and a half, and then went back down to 36 and a half when they're
Yeah,
like,
but
okay,
teams like him because they won 30 games last year.
they
Given
won
a
30
team
and
that was
had
tanking down the
nobody.
stretch, and they tanked poorly because they won games in March. 36 and a half sounds about right to me. I will go over. I think that they're better than people think. And I think Vegas notices that. Hence the going up and up.
Yeah, hence going up 3 games, which is a huge swing
Yeah.
for the odds makers.
I think they'll be in the playoff hunt
Well, it's not hard to be playoff on the
in
East.
the
You're
least.
just
Yeah.
you're defaulted in there. I mean, Chicago can't get out of the playoff hunt because it expanded to 10 teams now, regrettably. Yeah, I'll also go with the over on them. I don't see a reason. Again, the only thing standing in their way is their health. If this team can stay healthy, it should be a fun team to watch.
And they have depth to keep them afloat because they've just drafted well over the years. Like I think Shed's a good player. Jameson Battle can make threes. He has shot over 40% for three. Abaji, he is one of those guys who was picked in the first round and he kind of floated around, but I think he found a home finally in Toronto. And Grady Dick is going to basically be on an audition to show, hey man, I'm pretty good. You need to pay me in the next summer. I'm not sure if he'll get that opportunity, but we have it's hard to really bet against a team that has 6 guys that average over 15 points a game.
Yeah, but like I said, it's all at different time periods.
Correct.
So, like, what team are we getting? I don't. We will know by Christmas what this team is, but until then, it's just sort of. I don't want to say I'm hoping that they're good because I just don't want to see them terrible because they got, from a financial standpoint, this team's a complete disaster being so like just tied to this entire roster as is because it's so
Also, the
expensive.
ball handling duties who like I am counting 4 guys that averaged over 5 assists a game. They need to decide, Rajakovic needs to decide, all right, you're handling the ball if they're all healthy at the same time.
So it'll be interesting to see, I would say at the least.
Yeah. All right, Adam, the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm getting a little tired of trying to look, I'm a Pelicans fan. I'm from New Orleans. I am getting tired of getting to that point where I can handicap it and say, "Oh, I'll do the local thing and I'll go over for." I don't know if I can do it this time with the way that, now that Joe Dumars is running the show after they fired David Griffin, they keep Willie Green. I'm pretty much at the point where I feel like the experiment that David Griffin had started with Zion, I think it's failed and it's almost time to blow it up.
If we look at the off season in two separate windows and two separate pages, let's say. We take aside the draft. I'm not against their moves.
Okay, so the biggest one when involving getting Jordan Poole
They
and
got
swapping out CJ McCollum for it.
McCollum was old, his skills were declining. Him and Murray couldn't play together.
Yeah, that's true.
Poole, you're in Washington. You're just in this purgatory there. You have no incentive to do anything other than just chuck up as many shots as you want. Nobody cares. So adding Poole, adding Kevon Looney as a solid
A
actual
great
center,
rebounder. Like the moment he got signed, people would ask me like, "Well, what's he good at?" He's good at one thing, offensive rebounds. And
and
that's one thing New Orleans needed.
and taking a flyer on Sadiq Bey, who was coming off was it Achilles or an ACL? He where he was
Achilles tear. He literally did not play a minute for, I believe, the Wizards. Yeah.
yeah, and he was solid for Atlanta before he got injured. So taking a flyer, but those pieces and all you just lost McCollum, who did not fit with this team at all.
No, no. And
Now,
Murray, I think Murray's numbers, if you look at him, I mean, he didn't play many games, but 17 and a half, 6.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists. And then he tore his Achilles. So I don't know when he'll be ready. If I had to guess, the earliest Murray would be ready is around January.
now, can we just, as far as the Pelicans, just say, can we just commend the blind optimism the front office has for this team? Regardless of whether
When
I'm
you
not
say
saying we
when you say
believe it,
blind optimism, do you mean delusion? Is that just a replacement word for delusional?
but they believe in themselves. That this comes down to the draft part of everything, and giving up your first round pick for no reason.
They gave up a future first round pick to the Atlanta Hawks so they can move up in the first round to take Derek Queen, who they really believed in, but they had already picked a guy before that in Jeremiah Fears, a point guard. But like you never ever give up a future unprotected pick just to move up in the draft. You don't do that. You get a good player in return and move up in the draft.
But can we just commend we like Zion. This guy is just like Zion, so double Zions can't be stopped.
Yeah,
It's the
and then
NBA. Nobody plays defense
then
anyway,
he
so who
injured his foot
cares?
in the at summer
But
league because he's a Pelican now.
yes, they're delusional, but I can see why they're like doubling down on themselves. However, what worries me about them is Jordan Hawkins. What happened to him? Wasn't he supposed to take a big step?
He's a scorer, but that's it. He gets threes, average 11 a game. But I don't know Willie Green, who I was shocked. I'm gonna be honest, I was shocked. When they cleaned house, they didn't get rid of him. But I would assume that
And
was
that's
something.
the other problem is it would be a lot different if the
Willie Green
owner
does not believe in Jordan Hawkins. He loves Jose Alvarado, and Alvarado, the fans love him too. He doesn't make that much money, and he plays hard.
it's hard betting on your franchise player who barely plays and then having your coach who's probably light years odds on favorite to be fired before Christmas.
Yeah, and then the two that we didn't bring up, who I think are the pillars of the team, even though injuries have really clipped one of them, is Trey Murphy the third and Herb Jones. The Herb Jones extension was odd, because I don't feel like anybody was betting against the Hornets to try to get Herb Jones in a couple of years when his old deal was up, but he is a good two-way player. He had another injury-riddled year. Trey Murphy III is a very talented offensive player. I would probably say he's their second best player.
But he's already injured, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's had injuries. I mean, they've all had injuries. This has been the biggest thing. The New Orleans Pelicans are the most injured organization in the NBA by a country mile. Nobody suffers more injuries than they do throughout the season. They are a mash unit by the time they get to like the new year. Williamson, when he was healthy, he produced. He would go for 24 points and 9 rebounds. He had a triple double a couple of times. He lives at the free throw line, 57% from the field. Like, he can produce.
Now, would you be like, are you just so jaded and over everything where would you be legitimately surprised like if they did anything good, or is there any like
Well, if they had Jordan Poole as a six man and he was a big time contributor, that might be able to do something for him. But I don't know where it's all going to fit when it comes to, developing fears. And if you have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, can Sadiq Bey even get on the floor? I think Looney's going to start because they were stuck having to put in Nevez Missy and they didn't want to start him. I'm not
I
saying
didn't think
Missy's
he
a
was
bad player.
terrible.
No, 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 no. That's not what I mean. He's not a bad center.
Like,
He
why
actually
are they
had
so down on him?
well, because you can't be a starting center in this NBA especially in the West when you have all these freaking ridiculously good centers like Nikola Jokic and Chet Holmgren who just eat you alive. So they want a guy who can block, who can at least box out, and that's what Looney can do.
So speaking of being eaten alive, Vegas has put them at 31.5 to start, and
They
then
won
slid that
21 games last year. 21.
and then slid down to 30.
Hmm.
Well, they went down to because everybody was injured there last year, and you literally had to get exemption, multiple player exemptions because you couldn't field the roster because of all your injuries.
Yeah, they round up with like 40 plus wins the previous 2 years. So they're kind of meeting in the middle.
So they're at
Uh
30.5, and everybody's like, give me a reason not to take the under.
I can't because the health. Like, I just can't rely on the health of the team. The only way is if those picks of Queen and Fears combined really hit at the same time. But I can't bet in favor of that. Usually, when you get 2 first round picks, it's a slow development. Like, it's hard. Like, you don't see like even when Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams got drafted, Chet got hurt. So you didn't see the development for Chet until the next year. I just can't see it. The only way, like I said, is if they can find a nucleus where Poole and Murphy and Jones can rotate and be productive all together. Murray can be a point guard when he's back. I just don't know when he's going to come back. I don't think anybody's got a timetable because it's an Achilles tear for a guy who's almost 30 or maybe in his 30s. And then there's Zion, and there will be if he has good production again, he's got 2 more years at 40 million, but people will be calling for him. Dumars claims he's untouchable, but you got to think that some point in the deadline, I almost said if the Pels are in the water again, you got to think they're going to be taking calls at him. I'll go under. I'll go
No,
under.
okay. I obviously, if you're going to start your new vision, you want him to be part of it, or you would have jettisoned him long ago. So, with the fact they owe him very little coming forward, so why not try to make it work and hope he buys into this new regime?
It is a new
Why
regime. I
not?
know
Because
I know the coach is still there, but
people are
it is a new
calling, but
regime.
who's really offering a ton for Zion? He needs to bounce back in order to rehab his
I think
value.
one of these East teams is going to get desperate. As one of them is going to say, "Man, we got to like take a swing." I don't know.
But like, let's say Chicago is that team. What do you because you offer up Vucevic and like Giddy and like
Expired deals, you free up money.
yeah, like a first. Like, so what? Like, nobody's gonna come in and say I'm gonna give you 5 firsts for him. Nobody's gonna give you that big Kevin Durant, Mikal Bridges offer.
Hmm.
Those days are kind of over. So from Dumar's point, like, why would you trade him for 5 seconds? And
I
uh,
think they're going to demand at least one first because of the one that they cost themselves in the Atlanta deal in the draft. That's kind of my thinking there. But I understand what you're saying. Like, are they going to get the world for Zion?
yeah, so
Probably
Brooklyn's
not.
gonna say, here's a first, Cam Thomas, and uh,
Oh yeah, because if there's one thing that the Pelicans need, it's another guard.
yeah, like I said, what are the offers gonna like? They're not.
So I didn't talk to you into going under, into going over, huh? You're
No,
still going
I
under,
I
huh?
I want to go over because I want to think these changes will change everything, but I just know Willie Green's gonna be fired in like the first 8 weeks,
Yeah, I I
and
I regretfully will go under as well. I just don't see him. I see him as like a 28 win team, 27 win team.
oh,
Like,
especially in the West where they're just gonna be. I mean, it'll be a nice story for them to be that surprise team, but I'm just
oh, there are
not seeing
teams in
it.
the West are better than for sure. Are they? But are they going to be like in the running for the play in, like in that like 30, 35 to 40 win? No, I
The
don't see it.
problem is the group above them, like they're being on the outside looking in, going, we need to make our playoff push. I understand his logic of if we make the playoffs and we get to like the second round, that pick is in the 20s. We don't care about that pick because we've righted the ship. However,
That's
the
wishful
te-
thinking.
the teams directly above them in the West are Dallas and Memphis and San Antonio.
Yeah. And
That's a huge
and
gap
they
to
have
get.
superstars that are actually going to be motivated to play the entire year. Is Zion Williamson going to be the same way?
It's not like the East where all I have to do is leapfrog Chicago and maybe one of the injured Philly, Indiana, Boston combo. Like they have to literally overachieve to an extreme amount just to be the 10 in the
And
West.
then
So
escape something that the New Orleans has not escaped for probably a decade, and that's injuries. And I would actually bet that the injury bug will get them again. I actually feel more confident about that than the 30 win.
I remember when I texted you in summer league that Queen is having foot surgery, and I'm like, he's already in midseason form. You're like, don't talk to me.
It's just we call it the auctioneer curse because that's the medical system in the state of Louisiana. But like we've seen the takeaways from Dejounte Murray doing an interview and other people, like they always get hit with injuries. It's either rotten luck or bad medical staff. I don't know what it is. But you just know, you almost go into the season thinking at least 40% of our production will be gone by the time we get to January. All right, Adam, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. So this was the most expensive team in the NBA for a couple of years. They really went for it with Kevin Durant. Then they acquired Bradley Beal, giving up a whole ton of picks with Devin Booker. It didn't work out. They only got one playoff series. They got swept in it, missed the playoffs, and they tried all these different things. They tried new coaches, and they would just dry clean them all and fire them and go on next one. They got another new one coming up in Jordan Knott. However, no more Kevin Durant. He got traded to Houston. And then they were motivated. Let me ask you this. Do you think the Damian Lillard stretch involving Milwaukee kind of gave the light bulb for Matt Ishbia to go, you know what? We can reboot too. And it finally talked him into buying out, doing the same thing to Bradley Beal's contract.
Well, first, before all this, I'm just gonna say I don't care. I like Phoenix. Everybody
Okay.
is so far down on them,
Oh,
and
people are way down. We can talk about that when we get to the Vegas part.
we're gonna. But I don't think it was the I think I can do it. It was always he makes too much for them to cut him because he has to give up money. It was the
And he
fact
had the
that
no trade clause. Yep.
there was the fact that Lillard actually did it, and they tried. They tried desperately to trade Beal, and Milwaukee. He's like, I don't want to go to Milwaukee.
I
Milwaukee
think
was the
Beal
only
had
one.
reservations in terms of like, I will go to this team, like hand pick his destination. The teams didn't want him, or the teams weren't willing to give up anything for him. And that was where the rubber met the road. And and Ishbia just decided, all right, we're just gonna buy you out. And the only dilemma involving that one involved how much money would Beal give back in the buyout, because it's 19 million over the next 5 seasons, which is insane. But the last 3 years of that 5 year stretch is dead cap, meaning like it actually doesn't go against your salary cap. This time it does, but it's not going to be the 50 million or whatever million that Beal was going to be afforded. And he gave up just a little bit of money,
He gave
which
up
he
12
got,
billion because that's what he had to.
but he made it back in the Clipper deal when he
That
signed
was the
there.
amount. And it's a hard thing going from I'm the number one option in Washington. I'm the number one option. They're bringing me in to be a big three. And then, well, you don't fit with the other two, probably because him and Booker are both shooting guards and neither could really play point. But,
Yeah.
and then, well, you're the problem. You're marginalized. So eventually, at some point, it's like, remember Melo? He was like, I'm a starter, and everyone, the league was like, no,
Well, not
we
only
don't.
that, like Budenholzer did the Jedi mind trick where he talked him into being a six man. And for a little while,
And then
it
yeah,
actually worked.
In Portland, he sort of rejuvenated his career of being that I'm willing to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not the star anymore, but I love basketball, so I want to do this. And he's saying all the right things in Clippers, but we're not on Clipper Town. We're in
Yeah.
Phoenix. You get rid of Kevin Durant, who is
I mean, super efficient player to this day. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I think he averaged about 26 points a game.
super efficient, but just lots of miles, and we always get worried he's going to be injured. And Tyus Jones, who just we thought was the missing, we thought was the missing piece, but wasn't. But you got Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green and like 52 centers. So if you look at Dylan Brooks and Ryan Dunn, those guys are going to be pesky on
Yeah,
D.
Ryan Dunn was a rookie, but he was probably one of their more energetic defenders that they had on a
And
team
they
that didn't
loved him.
play a
And
lot of defense at all.
yeah, he was a very good defender. And then all of a sudden, well, he's starting. Well, now he's out of the rotation getting DNPs, and that
Mm.
was the whole dysfunction of everything. But if you put Brooks and Dunn on the wings, they can like lock down and just sort of streamline everything. And you got Cayman Malak, you got Nick Richards, you got Mark Williams, you
I mean,
got
are there any other college big men drafted in the first round that they could? Malawak has potential. He is a brick shit. I was like, he is enormous. So I wonder if how productive he can be. If just based off of size, I think he's going to be he reminds me a little bit of Okongwu when he first started. And Okongwu didn't develop immediately, but he blossomed later on. Williams, we know the story. A lot of people kind of know Williams about how he was going to go to the Lakers from Charlotte, but they nixed the deal because they didn't want to give up a pick. So the Lakers claimed that he failed his physical, which was bullshit. But now he's a Phoenix Sun.
which is funny. And they traded Nurkic for
Oh,
uh,
Nurkic was terrible for them.
Nick Richards. So
Yeah.
you swapped and they managed to trade for Fleming in the top of the second
Rasheer
round,
Fleming, yeah. And
who
then they
is also reportedly very good on defense.
Yeah, so the
So
other thing too is that when they did the buyout, at the end of the day, they went from being like well past the second apron and paying all this luxury tax and being a national joke. Now they're actually under the apron. So they had to kind of bunt on all these other deals because they already had guys tied up in money when they brought in Jalen Green. He had already signed a deal with Houston. So they had his money. Dylan Brooks at 20 mil. That's probably fair for Dylan Brooks. I like him. You already complimented his defense. He's also a decent 3-point shooter. He makes big shots down the stretch. Grayson Allen, I kind of go up and down with him. There are
but
times
he's
where
solid as a bench
he's
as
a
a six man.
great 3-point shooter, but defensively, he's a sieve. And there are times where I don't feel like the coaches believe in him and they think that he's like ruining their lineups. But otherwise, they kind of had to go with smaller contracts like Williams,
But as
Richards.
opposed to having nobodies last year because they were so top heavy and so expensive,
They had no money for other
all they
guys,
could get
right?
were
Josh Okogie,
exactly. And this they finally have some sort of bench and some sort of development. And yeah, Green is just a empty calorie stat
I
guy.
like him. I know he had a really rotten first round series when he was a Rocket against the Warriors. But he had stretches during the regular season where he looked
But
terrific.
he's also young and had never seen the playoffs all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
He also got a 2+1, which means that he has two guaranteed years coming up in 26 and 27, but then he has a player option at 36 mil. So it's actually a team friendly deal.
So Vegas is obviously very down at 30.5.
Mhm. Devin Booker is such a stud. I mean, we know this. I almost felt bad for Booker the last couple of years because I felt like he was marginalized and they were asking him to be like a point guard, you know? And he's
Mm-hmm.
not. He's not. He's a scorer. He This is a man who scored 70 points in a game. I've watched this man massacre the Pelicans every single time he plays them. He scores 50 points every time we play him. So I feel like now Booker's back in his groove where he can just be a scorer and be a ball dominant guy. I wonder if he can fit with Jalen Green. I wonder Jordan Ott comes from Cleveland. I wonder if they're going to shoot a lot of threes. That's kind of my guess.
Well, that's the NBA way of just let's shoot threes and do nothing else. But
Right.
yeah, 30.5, I think is just way too.
It's
They're
low.
predicting them to
Even
be.
as bad of a year they had last year, Adam, they still won 36 games.
They're predicting them to be 14th in the West. I don't think they're going to be that far bad.
No, I could see him being better than, like, the Portlands and the Sacramentos and I mean, definitely better than Utah.
That's
They
why I
might
think
even
30.
will they be better than, like, Memphis and Dallas?
No.
I don't think so,
But if you
you
said
know?
33, 34, I'd be like, yeah, 35. I could see 35. 30 is, I think, awfully low.
Yeah,
Because Booker's
I
still
could
going to score 25.
I'll go with the over, but I don't feel great about it because if it's 30.5, you know, I can see him getting to 33, but no better than that, you know?
And 33 is still, it's an over is an over.
Yeah, and I feel like this is gonna be the year where we actually don't fire the coach at the end of the year in Phoenix. Like, I feel like this is one where Jordan Ott was promised, okay, we're gonna let this we're gonna develop this. We gave up on the title hunting stuff. Once we unloaded Durant, we bought out Beal. We can just kind of just go with what we have and see if we can be successful with it. Do you think Jalen Green's in for the long haul in Phoenix?
He's there for this year, so keep
So
getting your.
that means no.
Who knows how he'll be, what he'll be flipped for, how this team will choose to, because he's not a natural fit there.
Yeah.
But then again, his first year in Houston, they were terrible. So it's just go do what you want, develop bad habits. Then all of a sudden, Adoka comes in. It's like, well, you need to now actually play, and you can't just be a knucklehead.
I worry about their front court with a rookie Malawak, Williams coming in, and Richards. Like, that's not enough. And Iguodala, that is not
But
enough. Like,
compared to last year's front court,
of
I mean,
Nurkic, yeah. Yeah.
depends. Do you want to say Durant was front court, or was Durant really just sort of a point forward,
Mhm.
like a two? Like what?
Yeah, he
You know?
never plays the 4 like that.
Yeah,
He
he's not
plays
a traditional guy. So compared to last year of Nurkic and
I can't
like
even remember, yeah.
Durant, let's just say Durant. It would
I
be
think they
Durant
had
by
Plum Dog
default.
Millionaire for a while, Mason Plumlee, yeah.
Yeah, so based on that, I don't have to be happy with them, but it's better than what they were. And if they buy into this coach as opposed to the last four coaches, maybe
Mhm.
it might be different. But I'm gonna cautiously take
I
the
would
over.
say Devin Booker is gonna get back into that. I mean, he averaged 25 points a game last year, but, like, I could see him go, like, jump into, like, the high 20s, like 28 or 29. All right, Adam, let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers. You know, I was feeling good about them for a little while. They had a nice finish to their season, even though their month of March was terrible. They actually, for the first time in a long time, had a winning month in February to the point that, remember, at the trade deadline, they did not make any moves because they kind of felt good about it. Once they got to the offseason, they bought out DeAndre Ayton. They made a couple of other moves, and then they brought back, of all people, Damian Lillard on mid-level exception money.
I don't get it.
Well, I don't get it because he's hurt. So you gave this guy 13 million. I understand it's a mid-level exception, so it's not really going against your cap anyways. But
Uh,
like he's probably let me ask you this. Do you think he'll play a minute? I think because of the
no,
timing of
but
the
that's
Achilles
fine.
tear,
It's
it being in April, I just don't see it. I think he's just gonna be a game manager for the most part.
There, we miss you. We shouldn't have gotten rid of you. But the bad GMing decisions made him want to leave. And then you have Scoot Henderson. You have Shaden Sharp, who are due up for big contracts soon and due up for big
Yeah, I think they
minutes
were
and everything.
drafted. Ooh, were they drafted around the same year? I don't
No,
think so. I think they're a year
Scoot
apart,
is,
but
and yeah, but
Sharp
so
is up.
Sharp
Yeah.
is up for an extension, and then Scoot's the year behind. So we have all like these two. Well, this is gonna be our backcourt of the future. But let's get in Drew Holiday and his 32 million for 3 years. It's like,
Mhm.
what are you doing? That you had a. It's a very small sample
That's a
size.
lot of money for a guy almost in his 40s who averages 11, 4, and 4.
They were very good for 3 months. And
Mhm.
they're taking this and they said, okay, we're going to because they were a dumpster fire. We thought Billups would be
Oh,
the
yeah,
first
like,
one
people had
gone.
given up on him literally when the season started, and they struggled. Like, they were bad in October through December, then winning moments in January, February until the deadline hit, and they started tanking.
And it was so bad. You had, okay, Aiton, we want you to leave. Okay, fine, I'm going to leave. I will
Well,
give
there
you
was
$10
that
million.
funny moment where he couldn't get out of his driveway. I mean, that's an all-time great, like, life of an NBA player, story that I'll always hang on to. That DeAndre Ayton, the roads are frozen, he couldn't get out of his driveway, and that's why he couldn't play in the game. It's amazing. I loved it. But remember, they also drafted Donovan Clingan, who's a good shot blocker and rebounder. He'll fit right in. Time Lord is still there, but I have to assume they're trying to get rid of him.
Oh, yeah, he's expiring deal and he only plays
Talk about Robert Williams, who
30
those who don't
games a
know Time
year.
Lord, yeah. Um,
The
but
problem is you signed Jeremy Grant to that deal and you still don't know what to do with him. Understand Aiton's just like I don't care now because what you drafted Klingon. Like I thought I was your guy, even though he was a malcontent. But why are you drafting another center? And then you had like all you had Duop Reith, who you got to sign to
yeah,
a full time deal, and
they drafted Hanson Yang. I got a feeling he'll play.
yeah, they drafted him, who showed a lot in the summer league. However, you just like what is their lineup like? So your starters are Drew, Scoot,
Sharp
Avdija.
at the 3 is what I would say. Maybe
So
Avdija.
Avdija at the 4 and Klingon at the 5. Like, so Jeremy Grant's going to be on the bench. Like, what about Tumari Kamara?
Yeah, Tamari Kamara is a great defensive player to the
Like,
point where
you
Matisse
need him
Thybulle
on
was
the.
supposed to be that guy, and they don't even play Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah, you need Kamara on the cross. So who is like? Why did you get Drew Holiday? Oh, for his leadership? Yeah, but well, you got Shaden Sharp and you got Scoot and you got
I felt
Abdija and
like
you
if
got
you were not
Kamara.
gonna have Lillard for the year and you knew that, that's fine for the nostalgia factor, but if you're gonna get another older player like Holiday, you gotta get a guy that's gonna produce for you, and that was the problem in Boston in the regular season. He he kinda like rope-a-doped. He didn't really do that much in the regular season for Boston. I highly doubt Holiday. I say that, but Holiday has had some moments on bad teams where he has played motivated and he's
No,
put together and
Holiday
he's produced.
Holiday last year slowed down tremendously, but you
Yes,
watch him, he's one of those players who you're not going to see him on the stat sheet. Everything he does is completely on defense and then just off the ball. Like he's not there to
but
get
what I'm
he'll
saying is, can he be in that role as a mentor in Portland? That's tough because they're not going to win much. You
but
know,
that's the thing is you're led to believe now with expectations of well we had 3 good months, why can't we put this together for a playoff push? And then why are you trading for a Holiday?
hmm
It doesn't like Anthony Simons was an expiring deal. I thought, okay, we need to get rid of him to open up the room for Sharp and Scoop. Why are you bringing in this expensive
So
guy?
Sharp had injuries. When he played really well. That's why he's kind of in line for that a big deal coming up. 18 and a half points, 4.5 rebounds, two made some 3-pointers. I think where the real turnaround happened, in my opinion, was for Portland under Chauncey Billups, who I believe got an extension, was three things. Number one, Kamara playing really well as a defender that teams didn't really know much about. Henderson actually shooting at an NBA average because he was shooting like below 40% his rookie year. He actually is now finally shooting the ball well. And then Avdia was a stud. once he's actually started to find his way in the rotation.
Vegas started them off at 33.5 and moved them up to 34.5.
Mm.
I it's very I can see, from the fan base, it's very frustrating. You had this glass ceiling with Lillard, who he can only carry you so far. You tear everything down. You like these pieces that you see, and then you bring in these two guys. Like, so when Lillard comes back next year, and Drew's still there, that takes away minutes from everyone else.
I got a feeling. Well, they can't buy him out. Talk about Holiday. They can't buy him out because he's got 2 years left after this. So, yeah, I understand what you mean. Like Holiday will still probably be there
And
once.
Jeremy Grant, who you guys should get rid of him. Like
Well,
he's
Grant, they might be able to unload Grant. Like that's one where a team might actually see the value in him. The problem is you actually have to play him more. He averages 32 minutes a game, which was like he was the only guy who averaged more minutes per game than him was Kamara, but which shows how valuable Kamara is. But for Grant, he's got to be able to like show that he can do 18 and 8. And that's not what he did last year. He only did 14 and 3 in terms of points and rebounds. So like maybe they can show off Grant a little bit more in the lineup, but that would sacrifice winning games. Like now you're just putting out guys so that you can show them that they have trade value, kind of like the Utah route. 36 wins last year. You said 34.5. Is that what you said?
yeah.
The thing is, I felt really good about going over on him for months, and now I'm starting to think, no Lillard. Holiday might not be motivated. There's gonna be pressure on Avdia and Scoot to produce on a nightly basis. I'll go under. I think things might break a little bad for them in this regular season. I think the following year, once they kind of unloosen some of that salary involving guys like Thibault and Williams and maybe even Jeremy Grant, that's when I think they're going to start getting good. And Lillard's back. Like, I think that's when they're going to get really good. I will go under. I was going to go over for a long time. And then at the last minute, I just decided I don't know they're good enough. I don't know they're good enough to scratch out a 30, like more than 35 wins.
I'm uncomfortably sort of gonna sit on the over right now.
Okay. It's a good
Not
number. It's a good line for them.
happy with it,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's weird because they had horrible months, but they had a great month of February. So like you
it's
wonder, man,
a
like
very small sample size to be like, I see what they can do, but it's the West,
mhm.
and it's a very tough.
And it's not a wasteland. I would see these late games on League Pass where if Portland was like hosting a team, I knew they were going to get blown out. I don't feel that way anymore. Like now when I watch Portland, I'm like, they're gonna give the team that they're playing. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be like Cavaliers. It could be the Jazz. Like if they're playing a team, I'm like they're gonna give them trouble at home in Portland. So the Magic is slowly coming back, but I still think they need to season up the Magic mix a little bit. Adam, let's talk about the Sacramento Kings, or is it the Sacramento Bulls?
Oh, I don't like they're bidding against themselves.
They're bidding against the Bulls. That's why they're the Sacramento Bulls.
And it gets worse and worse every time.
You don't want to be a
And
play-in team every year? What's wrong with that?
you have these weird playoff aspirations, but then you just make questionable moves. Like nobody is paying Dennis Schroeder 15 million,
Mm-hmm.
and you're bidding against yourself to trade him. And you're like, well, we want to get Russell Westbrook, a player whom no other team is linked to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, well, we need to jettison Malik Monk for him. It's like, wasn't Malik Monk like in the sixth man of the year running at some
That
point?
does sound like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Yes.
And you drafted Keegan Murray, who was great his rookie year, and then you bring in DeRozan, and like, well, he can't play with DeRozan, so he got marginalized. Then, oh, let's trade for Levine, and then he gets marginalized even
Well,
more.
you're
And it's
burying the
just
lead on two things. Number one of the wildest stories in the regular season to start, which was the Mike Brown being fired on the tarmac after having a personality clash with De'Aaron Fox when Fox blew a defensive assignment at the end of the game when they lost to the Pistons. That was a funny little stretch. And then the real big one was obviously, and even though you did mention Zach LaVine being there, the De'Aaron Fox trade. being traded to Sacramento or to San Antonio because he basically asked out. He said, "I'm not resigning here."
Yeah, it's like I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done
He
with
gave up.
this, you
And
guys.
we talked about it a lot, Adam, during the regular season for people who want to revisit those things or are gone fishing. But I can see both sides to the De'Aaron Fox Sacramento saga. Like I can see how he says, "Man, there was just too much turnover here. This place was that place was hot garbage. I had to get out of there in order to savor my career, go somewhere more stable." I can also see Sacramento saying, "This guy literally got our coach fired because he demanded it, and then turn around and he wanted out himself. So fuck that guy." So I can understand both sides of it.
But it's hard when you continue to make dysfunctional moves and then you
Right.
draft Devin Carter with the 12th or 13th pick. He's injured, so he only played 3 months, and they're like, we need to get rid of him immediately. Like,
Hmm.
I've never seen a team draft somebody in, like, I mean, recent memory,
A
and
lot
then
of people put it on Vivek. A lot of people put it on the owner. They think he's a little bit of a his knee jerk reactions are poor in terms
they're
of like
all
running the team.
terrible. And just, well, we need to get, like, Sabonis is good, but he has limitations. But instead of trying to hide them, like, well, we need to get DeRozan, who
He
was
is
good 10 years
offensively
ago.
one of the most gifted centers I've ever seen.
And
Such a triple double machine, just awesome rebounder. But man, like the aggressiveness on offense can be lacking sometimes. 19 a game is good, but he can average 25 if he wanted. And defensively, he is just the worst. Really, really
And then
bad.
you had to jettison Valanciunas for Dario Saric. And they could just said Valanciunas could have been like, I want to go to Europe. They're like, okay, we'll get our $10 million back from him
Yeah. And Doug
because
Christie kept the job, so he's going to be the full-time head coach. I can see Sarge getting in the lineup. They also brought in Drew Eubanks, another big. I feel like none of these guys play defense. So like who's going to play defense in the at the 5, I mean it's going to be a bit rough in the front court for them. Their lineup from 2 to 4 is really good. You got DeRozan, you got Levine. For now you have Monk who you can slide in at the 2. And Keegan Murray, I do think I am a believer in Keegan Murray. I do think he can have a stretch where he can be a really good player who can get good money when his rookie contract's up.
he's good. However, he was the fifth option on the team.
Right,
So
like
what can you
it's
do?
just been a
And
bad situation for him.
like, what point of Schroeder and let's just say that they do get Russell Westbrook at the end. How does that make the team good?
Yeah, is that
Like,
going to make their 3 points allowed dead last and 3 points allowed ranking better? No.
like what is your goal? Like, I just feel bad for
I
the
think Schroeder can help defensively. They also like Keon Ellis. They still have their locker room leaders per se in Trey Lyles, so they kept him. Carter was hurt a lot. He shot poorly when he came back, but a lot of guys with bum shoulders when they come back, they shoot poorly, especially when they're rookies. So I wonder if he'll make a jump. It's a team that offensively clearly has talent. They had talent offensively when Mike Brown was fired. They were actually good enough to make the play in. Some people say that it was because Phoenix sort of like waved the white flag, and that was why Sacramento got that spot. And they lost pretty quickly to Dallas. But you bring in Neat Clifford as a rookie. You also I think didn't they sign Doug McDermott for a little bit of money?
unfortunately.
So they're trying to bring in more shooters. I wonder if Doug Christie's going to try to run something different. The thing that I have to, and this is why I was making the joke about the Sacramento Bulls, is like you bring in DeRozan and Levine, and they work really well together. They've played with each other for multiple years in Chicago, and then when they land together in Sacramento again, it's like, hey, like let's just run the same stuff we did together with our sets. Well, they're both effective together. The problem is, like you keep joking about with the play and stuff, what is their max potential? We've seen it. DeRozan and Levine as a combo, the max potential is play in and out. Is that what you really want?
I don't know if that's what they want because, as we mentioned with New Orleans, the next teams above them are Dallas, Memphis, San Antonio. Above that is the Lakers and the Clippers and Golden State, which is very far out of the league. So,
Yeah.
like, they on no paper on anything could they even look like they could compete with a Dallas or a Memphis.
Yeah. And DeRozan and Levine are ball hogs. The thing about DeRozan is that he's still an effective player in his late 30s. Or is he? He's somewhere around 35. He's close, but the wheels are going to fall off eventually on DeRozan, and you just wonder if an injury is going to clip him, and then they're going to have to play. Um, like a more of a more where Levine is pounding the ball a bunch, or maybe Schroeder is the one, maybe even Keegan Murray gets more playing time. Like, but
He's 36.
I know, like he's like
That's
eventually,
it's
eventually the wheels are gonna fall off on DeRozan
the
at some
wheels are
point
gonna
where
fall off. He's
he goes from 22
36.
points per game to like 15, and you're like,
Schroeder's 31, and you're looking to get 36-year-old Russell Westbrook. Like, there's no youth. Like, I don't know how Vegas put him at 35 and a half. I don't. That seems extremely
I
high.
I would go under that. Even though they went 5-11 in the month of March. Like they after the trade. So like even with the bottoming out, they still won 40 games. It's a talented team. It's a bonus. Like I said, the only guys that I think maybe offensively at center are better than him are Jokic and like, can you name another one? Offensively at
Offensively,
the five, at the center spot. Maybe Embiid when he's healthy.
Towns.
Maybe Towns, that's a good one, but not many. Not many. I mean, Sabonis is a superstar. He's going to want more money. He's going to want an extension. He's going to want some promises that
Well,
things are going to go
he's
his
yeah,
way.
he's the what's this looking like? I know I'm gonna
Right.
get money, but
And there was a rumor that he had that talk with Vivek this summer.
yeah, and he'll hang around for now. And well, the thing is, they can get something for him. They can retool.
I wouldn't be shocked if Levine averaged like 3 made threes a game. Like he just went Curry mode where he just shoots a bunch.
But I have to take the under just
Okay.
because
I'm going under as well.
everyone else in the West, with the exception of Phoenix, we don't count Utah. They don't count. But Memphis got better. Dallas took a step back, but not too much of a step back.
Yeah,
So all
and
the
you can't
teams,
take a fly on Clifford, Neat Clifford, because of the fact that we already see the history that rookies don't get playing time in
yeah. Oh,
Sacramento.
we
Yeah.
like Nick Clifford. When is he gonna play behind? Like, you think he's gonna supplant DeRozan for minutes? Like, no, DeRozan still plays 35 a game.
Yeah, and
Like,
Mike Brown had a history of never playing his reserves. I mean, I think Christie will have to adjust to that. He has to play his reserves.
so in the end, this is a very long episode. We have gone well over an hour. Um, I think because it's just the frustratingness of this, of you see the talent, but you also see self-inflicted wounds every which way to jeopardize everything. And as much as I want to like Toronto and I want to think New Orleans can turn it around and be healthy, and Phoenix isn't a dumpster fire, and maybe Sacramento does start something, I just can't. And like maybe Miami, because you see people like, well,
The
I
bad
can,
outweighs the good for almost all of these
because
teams.
you can talk yourself into Miami going to almost like, deep in the playoffs again. You could
Yeah.
see that. Then you could also be like, I could see them just completely falling over again, like they did last year. And that's the case with all like Chicago. Like these rosters are all not terrible. They're very expensive, but they're not.
Offensively, it's a good team. The problem is like talk about Chicago. Like let me we always do this, but I wanted to pull you on this one. So among these teams, which one do you feel the most confident is going to stay here and not go far?
Sacramento.
I would say Phoenix. Like I'm not a huge believer in Phoenix. You
I
know,
I've I also went on board early and said
I don't want to say New Orleans because I'm holding out hope that they can prove me wrong for once.
I have to be you have to be high on somebody. I can't just be down on literally every team. So yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, Phoenix I
I
think
was
will be.
thinking Sacramento too. Like they're in a really tough spot in the West.
See, you
Um,
tricked me. I thought you were gonna say who's gonna play themselves up, and I'm like,
well,
Toronto.
that's the next question. Who's going to play
Toronto,
themselves
we
up? And
all
I
look
agree
we
with what you just said. I think it's the Toronto Raptors.
if they can stay healthy, that's gonna be a fun. Everybody can literally switch on
And
everybody on that team.
Miami, because of our favorite gimmick on the show, the Sioux Skyforce, like they always develop fucking players that like exceed their expectations. So like you always wonder if they're just gonna make it. I remember when we first started putting these tiers together, we called this one the layer of hell. Because like the one above us is like we called it purgatory because you're like kind of stuck. Like you're a playoff team, but you can't go further than first round. This one is like you're kind of in hell, you know?
And then you talked me down from my extreme view, and then here we are talking for an hour about how everything's falling apart. So I don't know. Anywho, for Andrew Reich, I'm Adam Murray. We'll be back again next week with another group. So have a good one.
See you later.